Crystal Rivera. I live in Winter Garden, Florida, and I'm 39 years old.
Crystal, can you tell me when you were diagnosed with MS?
I was diagnosed in November of 2004.
And did you have symptoms before that?
Yes, over the past years, I'd had symptoms over the years and would go to doctors, and they would always misdiagnose me with different things like anxiety, panic attacks, or like my legs went numb one time and they did nothing, and so
What else? Any other diagnoses? I mean, did that go on for a long time?
it was off and on over the years. It wasn't continuous, but it was off and on, and they would always tell me it was like all in my head, or that it was something else, or panic anxiety attacks, or that it was nothing. It was just all in my head.
Had they done an MRI? Any MRIs or CAT scans or anything?
Nope, not in the past.
Nothing. They just said it was all in your head and go
Mhm.
home. And what kind of medication were they giving you?
They had me on like stuff for like Zoloft and Klonopin for panic and anxiety attacks.
Anything else?
Nope,
And what about for pain? What were they giving you?
nothing for pain.
Nothing for pain.
No.
So you were diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
Mhm.
And what kind of shape were you in when you got diagnosed?
I was in pretty bad shape at that point in time. I was still working, and I found out that I was getting more tired every day and would have to come home and take a nap and sleep to make it through the day, and then get up. And then I started getting pains in my back and my neck. And then I went for a week still working with being numb from my chest all the way down to my feet.
What type of work did you do?
I was working at a brochure distribution center, driving a van, going to the hotels and stuff, putting in the attraction brochures and the
Right.
things.
So you were driving around and you were numb from the chest down.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what happened then?
Then I went to my regular doctor to find out what was going on, and he just did test MRI and x-rays from the waist down, and of course came back with nothing, which I knew. So I figured it was maybe a pinched nerve or something, so I went to a chiropractor. He did x-rays, MRIs, and then I went back, and when he got the results, and he told me, he said that I had a mass like entwined in my spine, and he said he couldn't touch me until I found out what it was. And so he referred me to a neurologist, which he got me into the next day. He did some more MRIs, lumbar puncture and everything, and came to the MRI didn't show the MS, it showed the transverse myelitis. But when he did the lumbar puncture, that did come back positive for MS.
Do you have any lesions?
He said that it showed more in my spine, and nothing had showed on my brain yet. So
Oh, thank God for that.
yeah, exactly.
So you were at the neurologist, and did they put you on medication?
Yeah, they started me on steroids, put me in the hospital, did the lumbar puncture, started me on steroids. And
How long were you on steroids for?
it was like a week, 2 weeks, because I was in it on the hospital and then came home on it for
Mhm.
a little while longer. And nasty stuff.
What did steroids do to you?
Oh, it made me feel really weird and hot all the time, and just,
Hungry.
yeah, and hot flashes and sweaty, and I got rash, like an itchy rash from it, and it was not fun.
Right. And then after the steroids, were you put on medication?
Yeah, then he started me on the beta serum injections, which I did every other day.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did that for 8 months. And then I ended up getting a cellulitis infection in my right upper thigh. And was put in bed for 3 months last summer because of that, because it was so painful and I couldn't walk. And then they ended up having to do surgery on it to drain the fluid out of it. And then it finally put me on, I think they put me on like antibiotics and stuff, and then it finally went away after.
When you were on the beta-seron, what kind of side effects were you having from that?
The flu-like symptoms, just, you know, feeling tired all the time, not feeling good, just, you know. Not
Let me
feeling
understand this. You didn't feel good, so you got put on all these drugs that made you feel worse,
Mm-hmm.
essentially.
Right.
And when you went to the neurologist, did you feel like it gave you much hope for your future?
No,
No.
no, not at all.
He just said, this is all we have to offer you, and you'll
Yeah.
be lucky. And oh, and by the way, what was your diagnosis?
Oh, it was secondary progressive MS and transverse myelitis.
Tell me how this affected your life. Before you know, when you first started feeling badly, you were working full time.
Mhm.
You have how many children?
3. I have 3 teenagers.
Right. And so you were a very active person. I'm sure you were working, keeping your house, taking care of your kids, driving them to all the places they had to go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I did everything from working full time to taking care of the house, cleaning, you know, very active, running around, you know, not sitting still, doing things. I used to do crafts and, you know, I used to do a lot of different things, and then once I got diagnosed, it was like, boom, nothing.
And what about physically? Your activity went from running around to what happened to your activity? You were in a wheelchair?
Yeah, I started out with a walker, and then went to a regular wheelchair for a while. And then I ended up getting an electric chair also, which I had to use.
How did you manage being in a wheelchair? I mean, obviously you couldn't stand at all.
Very little.
So you needed help transferring.
Right. Yeah, my husband, he, you know, was around. He was working part-time at that time, and he would help. And then other people, that family members would come over and help, and my dad.
So how did you find out about LDN?
Well, after I had gotten the infection in my leg, and I told myself I was not going to go through that again, and I don't like needles or injections anyways, so I started looking online and thinking there's got to be something else. There's got to be something that's in pill form. So I started researching and started talking to other people, kept seeing LDN, and I kept asking questions and researching and talking to people, and this went on for probably 2 or 3 months, and then finally I decided that I was convinced, because when you hear about it, it sometimes actually seems like it's one of those too good to be true things. But I finally got convinced to ask my neurologist about it. So when I went to him, I printed a bunch of information, and I had done my whole research, so I knew what I was talking about. So if he asked me questions, I went there to my appointment, asked him if he'd known about it, and he said no, he'd never heard of it. So I explained everything to him, showed him the information, so he knew what I was talking about, what it did, what it was for, everything. And he told me to give him 2 days to look over the information, and he says, and I'll call you back and give you an answer. So 2 days later, he called me back. He said, it looks good. He says, we'll give it a try.
So how long have you been on LDN?
I started taking it on September 3rd of 2005 last year.
I got there, did you ever tell me? I wonder. Did you think I'd be here? Everybody told me I